One. Well, hello, everybody. We're just going to wait a moment here and make sure that everybody is getting into the call here before we dive in. So if you are in, we would love it if you would just go ahead and throw something into the chat bar. Just go ahead and say hello to us. We want to see who is here joining us on our, Jessica, what number is this? Ask the Trainer number 7? 6, 7?
Number 7, lucky number 7.
Lucky number 7. I love it. I love it. So yeah, we're getting ready to dive in here in just a moment. It looks like we got a few people jumping in here as we go. So welcome. Thank you for all of you who are returning to join us again. Some of you have been relentlessly virtually dog training your dogs by coming to every single call. We super appreciate you and super glad that you're joining us. Thank you for coming back. For those of you that are brand new to this, welcome. We are so happy and grateful to have you join us here this evening. We are ultimately hoping to deliver you some massive value to really deliver on our brand promise as a company to make dog ownership easier. And somebody asked me one time, like, why is it that, you want to make dog ownership easier? And I said, well, ultimately, we know that if we make dog ownership easier for people, more dogs stay in people's homes and don't end up in shelters. And for all of you that got puppies during COVID-19, we want to ensure that your dog stays with you for as long as absolutely possible. So, hey, Matt, Danny, Christina, welcome. Thanks for jumping in here. So just real quickly, we're going to go ahead and start off with some introductions here. Jessica, one of our amazing team members here at DogiZone. Jessica, tell me, you ultimately just started coming back to work recently, and you've been doing some private lessons, and I believe that you've even done a couple of group classes at this point. Can you just maybe share one of your successes that you've had since coming back to work, what that's been like?
Yeah, it's been about a week and a half since I've started, trickling back into the office, which has been a little bit of a scheduling shift for me, getting used to that. But the biggest thing that I could say I've had success with was starting out our university classes this week. We ran classes on Monday night, and I ran 3 classes this morning. The feedback we've been getting, the positive feedback has been overwhelming. It's been overwhelming. Everybody's really happy to get back to it.
That's really awesome to hear, Jessica. I know some people are still very, very concerned about what it is that's going on out there, and for good reason. I mean, this has been obviously a very serious thing, but I don't want to dwell on that. I don't want to spend time talking about COVID. I think everybody's sick and tired of hearing about that at this point. So, but I think the exciting thing is that, people are feeling comfortable with how it is that we're structuring these classes. So for those of you that are university clients, if you have questions, concerns, we certainly want to field those for you. Feel free to hit us up. We'll answer those questions for you. But Jessica, great to see you back at work this week. And I know we're both back at our homes here. Too bad we're not side by side at the office. But anyways, well, without further ado, I know that we have a question of the day here. And the question of the day, I need you guys to throw some stuff into the chat bar for us. This is going to be really important as we go further into the call here. I need to know what it is that is the most annoying habit that your dog has. Go ahead and just start typing in the most annoying habits your dog has into the chat bar. If you put 10 in there, then you have to come for a free training evaluation because you're obviously really struggling. But we would love for you to just throw in as many as you possibly can that are your dog's most annoying habits, because what I'm going to do after we go through some of our great questions is hopefully we'll circle back to some of these things that you guys are experiencing, and I hope that we can get those knocked out. Welcome, Sheila and Candice, Mick. Great to see you all. Thank you for joining us here this evening. So let's see here. What do we have coming in for the biggest annoyances? Farts. Okay. Now, I'm not sure, Mick, if you have this is serious business here. Mick Jordan says farts. I don't know what to do with that. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to just, we're going to have to go to something else because that sounds like you might have a bulldog and there's not a whole lot that we can do for that. Barks at the other dogs, dismiss the shock collar for the first dog, better after the zap, drooling like a faucet. Okay. So it's clear that some of you didn't do full research when deciding what breed of dog to get, but we're okay with that. We're still here to help you. But yeah, surprise, surprise. We'll see what we can do. He loses his shit when he sees another dog. Barks like crazy, demon dog. It's 100% excitement. Okay. All right. We can dig that. We can certainly work with that. All right. Well, let's get into the real meat of things here, Jessica. I know that we have a couple of questions that we want to go ahead and dive into and answer. So let's go ahead and just move forwards here. You all have to bear with me. I'm having lots of fun with our new program here to have Jessica in person with us. So, Jessica, we are at our first question here. What should I do to stop my dog from coming to me when teaching distance commands? So this question was actually a bit longer when it came in, and ultimately this person's teaching their dog to sit down and stand at a distance. And for those of you that don't know what teaching distance commands is, we would consider this more of an advanced level of obedience that you would tend to see in sporting and working dogs. But I'll tell you, this level of control is super, super critical for pets too, especially if you want to be able to take your dog off leash places. So great question here, Jessica. Why don't you shed some light on what you think some of the approaches are that she could take with this?
Sure. It sounds like in the big picture, because I believe the initial question was saying within a 6 foot radius, 6 foot buffer, which is a good distance to be able to work in. But it sounds like that 6 feet is just a little bit too far. Last week on the call, if we remember, we talked about knowing when to add in distractions to your training cues. Knowing when to add distance is equally as important. Starting close, maybe next to the dog, maybe a foot out from the dog, is going to allow you to have a little bit more successful repetitions with that. And obviously repeating the exercise multiple times. Sometimes working to add the increments each day. Something that I do with my personal dogs when I'm training them is I try to stay within 1 foot for the first day. And then from there, I see about getting 2 feet away, and then 3 feet for the third day, 4 feet for the 5th day, and really being able to build that up. So when we talk about control of the dog, and we have distractions, we have distance, and we have duration, which I believe I saw somebody pop that up into the chat, which was awesome. I love it.
Yeah, distance, duration, distraction, certainly like mission critical things for you to have clear goals around whenever you're training your dog. And I think they're like something that most people don't spend enough time thinking about.
Right.
Is what is that aspect of the training that you're working to improve in each training session? Are you working on improving distance in the session, duration session, distraction in the session? And in terms of ways to get your dog to be responding to distance commands, another great approach to this is to utilize a placeboard. If your dog has learned to target their 4 feet on a placeboard and you've got them really, really cued in on that, then you can certainly use that to start teaching distance commands. And I would encourage you to maybe try that, because what it does is it teaches the dog that they have to perform what it is that you're asking them to do in a very, very small space. And what you can do is you can have that small space right in front of you where you can make sure that they're not getting off, and then you can gradually move away from them with that and really allow them to start working from a distance there. So that's another great way to do this. Now, when you're teaching distance commands, another thing that I like to maybe teach around the same time as this is obedience in motion. So really thinking about teaching the dog when they're walking on my side and I say sit as I'm continuing to walk. Most of you, I'm going to encourage you, every single one of you, when you get off of this call this evening, hold on a second. I missed something really important, Jessica.
What's that?
When we do these calls so that you take action. Okay. So every single one of
Yes.
you that are on the call right now, if you don't have a pen and paper, get it. What I want you to do is write what I'm going to start doing, what I'm going to stop doing, and what I'm going to keep doing. Start, stop, keep, 3 columns. Write down the notes of things that you're going to be doing that you hear as we go through this. Because again, knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is, right? So you have to take what we're teaching and actually put it into place. So what I'm going to encourage all of you to do as soon as you get off of this call is when you're taking your dog for their evening walk, while your feet are moving and you're walking, try and saying sit to your dog and see what happens. 99.9% of them, unless you've trained otherwise, are ultimately going to go and continue walking with you and not follow the command until you stop moving. Teaching motion obedience teaches the dog that even when your feet are moving and even when your body is in motion, that they should not follow you and that they should sit at the moment or instance that they heard that command. So this is another more advanced level of obedience, but I think teaching it around the same time as working on distance commands also brings another level of reliability to that. So that's my 2 cents on it. Next question that we've got here is a great question. I really, really like this question. Just how long will it take to train my dog?
Ooh, that's a good one, Andrew. Thinking about how long it takes to memorize things and what you're exactly trying to train. We have to remember that animals learn and change their habits throughout their life. Okay, throughout their whole entire life. The continual learning is important because any animal in the wild that stops learning, they won't be able to adapt to the environment and survive. So thinking about pet dog obedience and basic obedience, you may accomplish one set of goals in 4 to 6 weeks. And then from there, you might have another set of goals. So it's important to make sure that you're adjusting your training per the goals that you're trying to accomplish with the dogs, and then grow it from there. Training it lasts a lifetime. It doesn't ever end.
So Jessica, I think it would be really fair to share with them one of the golden nuggets of like the icy hill of dog training. And I know that we don't necessarily have a beautiful visual whiteboard for this. We'll figure that out for a future call, but maybe we can just walk people through what does it take to actually imprint behavior with a dog. Because I think that, this question of how long does it take to train my dog, when I read into the question, I always like to read into the questions that are being asked. To me, it sounds like, we want to, figure out like, what's the minimum that we have to do to get this done?
Right.
And really, it's not about doing something to get it done. It's really about doing it to create a new habit and a new way of being. And I think that is commonly left out. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the imprinting of behavior.
Yeah, when we talk about dogs memorizing the commands, think about it's just like the human patterns of learning. There's an antecedent, there's a behavior, and there's a consequence. When we're talking about doing the training with the dogs, there is a cue, there is a behavior, and then there's a benefit. When that happens, that's where the dog really starts to understand. When you say sit, the dog's butt hits the ground. You say good, you're at that point taking a snapshot, say a Polaroid picture. That's the one that you got. The next time you do it, that picture needs to look the same, because if it looks different, then the dog's learning multiple ways of doing things. Thinking about the repetitions that it takes for a dog to learn. I don't have the nice whiteboard behind me that we would in a normal old basic class to do the math behind me. But it essentially takes, between 4,000 and 6,000 repetitions of one behavior in order for it to be imprinted. And imprinted means that the dog can do it reliably at your direction.
Yeah, I like when we think about imprinted behaviors, the way that I want everyone to think about what an imprinted behavior is I want you to think about it yourself and what is an imprinted behavior for you so that you really understand what it is the goal is that we're after here. So when you think about an imprinted behavior in yourself, I'm expecting that most of you drive vehicles. And most of you, when you drive those vehicles, stop at stop signs. Now, some of you don't, and I like to stay as far away from you as possible. But those of you that do, thank you. And when we pull up to a stop sign and hit those brakes, we never think about it. It's just something that happens. Ultimately, that's imprinted. If you were driving down the road and you missed a stop sign, you'd hit the brakes halfway through the intersection because of the fact that it's imprinted. And, obviously you got distracted or you were in a new place or whatever the case may be. So, that's what it is that we want. Like when we say the word come to our dog, we don't want them to necessarily like sit there and think about it and ponder, come. Let me sniff a little bit more. Okay, I'll come now. No, when we say come, we want the dog to stop on a dime and turn, because that could save their life if they're running into the street. And that's where my mind goes, is my commands need to save my dog's life. And if your commands are not reliable enough to save your dog's life, then we're not on track with your dog's training. And we need to work to improve it to a more reliable level. So this training of 4,000 to 6,000 repetitions, I think, is critically important. The other side of this is really not just teaching the behavior, but teaching that the behavior applies in whatever environment and whatever distraction is put in front of them. And that's really where it comes down to generalization. And I usually don't encourage people to start changing the environment and the distractions until they have about 80% reliability. But once we've gotten to that point, it's time to start stretching, start pushing things a little bit further. So the long story short here, in terms of training your dog, it's a lifetime. Somebody put that into the comments earlier. I really like that. It is. Don't look at it as a project. A lot of people think of dog training as, oh, I got to take my dog to class until he's trained. I'm not saying that you have to take your dog to training classes for the rest of your life. I would hope that by, a year and a half, that you would have established enough skills to be able to continue training on your own. Some people just love to have the accountability, and we think that's great. We agree that accountability does breed better results. And so for that being said, I would just tell you that, it's something that you really want to make a habit and a lifestyle, and find ways to make training part of your everyday routine versus something that you have to cut time out of your day to do. Because the reality is you won't do it forever. You'll only do it for a few weeks before you have to stop, because life is life. And we have to deal with that. So I think that pretty well covers it here. Let's go ahead and move on to our to the next question here. This is a really good one, and this is one that I think I want to give a little bit of just context to like how it is that we answer this. We're a dog training company that provides a lot of different approaches to training dogs. And we don't really have one approach that's our way of doing it. I'm not going to say the name, but, if you look at like a lot of the more big box retailers, it's kind of just like one size fits all. And I understand why it is that they do that, because they have very little time to train their staff. And, the level of training that they're taking to people is not very high per se. But we think that having that variety is really what allows us to provide people with reliable results off leash around distraction. And a huge part of our training is treats. And, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, we used treats, but we didn't use them like a lot. If you talk to the trainers now and you ask them like what changed, they'd probably tell you like Andrew's just different now, right? No, I've learned, and I've seen the value in really bringing a more food-based approach to what it is that we're doing. So with that being said, Jessica, why don't you talk a little bit about your opinion on treats and how you should or shouldn't train with them so that the dog's responsive regardless of whether you have them or not.
Right. I think if you train incorrectly or incompletely with food, then you'll always have to need food around for your dog to be able to perform the behavior. Conversely, with other stuff, not just food, remote collars, pinch collars, chain collars on the dog readily available, you might always need those things. So you want to make sure that regardless of what you're training with, you're having a tiered approach with reward. To be completely transparent, I don't know if anybody's listening here. I don't use a lot of treats with my personal dogs with training. I use their food. From a very young puppy with Buckshot, we used his meals for training. A little bit more of that, like nothing in life is free policy with the dogs. He learned to earn with his food. Sophia Yin had a fantastic book. If nobody has it, go get it. Maybe we'll put it in the link. But that's really important to just make sure you're doing it the right way. The best way to wean off food rewards is to first reward enough so the animal learns the behavior well in different contexts. From there, I will generally take a little bit of a tiered approach before even giving the food to the dog, would be to provide verbal praise, maybe some physical petting in there, and then the food comes as the icing on the cake. But the caveat to all of this, Andrew, I think, is the difference between using food or treats to shape and lure behaviors and using it as a reward. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the times what ends up happening is, there's a pattern that the dog sees where, the treat pouch goes on, the hand goes into the bag, food comes out, it's put in front of the nose, and then we're telling the dog to do something. So we're putting a lot of pattern in front of what it is that we're ultimately trying to teach. And I think that then when the dog doesn't see that treat pouch on your side and you don't have, food in your hands and you're not doing the same exact maneuvers, things really fall apart. So, I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't really have a whole ton to add to that. I think using food is definitely one of the best things. And, really, if you're using the food the right way, the dog is just learning how to make the right decisions to get what it is that they want. And, food is no different than your attention. Food is no different than a toy that you have or a squirrel that's in front of them. I mean, so if we teach the dog, like, how to make the right decision, for instance, we talk about teaching the dog to say please. I mean, we've had 1,000 questions about jumping. And ultimately it's all about teaching the dog how to engage, how to interact with us and ask for what it is that they want. So doing that with the food for a little while starts to teach the dog how to get what it is that they want. And then we can start to apply the same principle to providing the dog with attention, providing the dog a toy, providing the dog access. When I say access, that might mean the ability to go inside or outside. So then it's no longer about the treat anymore. It's about the dog responding to you because they know that by responding to you, they get what they want by doing what you want. And that's what we call a win-win situation. Like, that's a very symbiotic relationship. And that's what everybody wants, right? Nobody wants to be at odds fighting with their dog to get them to do things. I mean, it takes the fun out of having a dog. Enjoy your dog training. Stop fighting with your dog.
Yeah.
So
I think Andrew, one mistake that's accidentally made is that we make it too black and white for the dog, meaning that the training only occurs, and you said it, in a specific session. The treat pouch comes out. The times that they're not required to potentially listen, they're just not understanding. In fact, they may have accidentally even been rewarded with bad behavior. So we have to really think that, has the dog made it a habit enough to understand?
Yeah, I think that's spot on point there. That's spot on. Well, Jess, we've got 5 minutes left, and I know, like, I was having fun. I kind of forgot about time. That happens to us here. So, what I was thinking, Jess, actually would be cool, and I haven't discussed this with you, so I hope that you're on board with it. But what if we had you choose who the next person is that we should bring on to the Ask the Trainer call? So maybe you could pick another one of the dog trainers from the team that we could pull into the call for the next one. And we'll have to make sure that they're available, obviously. But if you were going to bring somebody in, who should we bring in for the next call? We should just bring another.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be me all the time. I'm sure everybody's getting sick of me.
No. I want you to still be on here. I just want to. We can add a third person to this, and it would make it even more exciting, I think, for everybody.
Well, I was going to say, honestly, I was going to say Karen, but she is just getting out of teaching the high school class at 7:00 on Wednesdays. So I would say maybe bringing on George. He's getting off of his virtual calls a little bit earlier. And then maybe we can even tag team maybe the week after that, bring in Terrence.
Boom. We gotta get a third person in here. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and dive into some questions from the stream here. Any questions that you guys have, would love it if you would just go ahead and drop them in there for us, and we will see what we can answer for you here. I'm just going to double back to some of our stuff here from earlier because we had some really funny answers, and although I don't think I'll be able to fix all of them, I will see what we can do here. So, Jessica, did you see any that jumped out at you?
I'm just scrolling back through.
I think this comment from Danny Martinez about dog losing it when he sees another dog, barks like crazy, demon dog, but it's 100% excitement. So this is definitely something that can be a real annoyance. Why don't we talk a little bit about? Let's talk about reactivity a little bit here. I mean, Jessica, we see a lot of dogs that come in that just explode when they see other dogs, right? I mean,
yeah.
How many do you think we see a week? Like at least 5 or 10 a week?
Yeah,
it's pretty common. So, but a lot of them aren't aggressive towards other dogs. Now, the neighbors definitely think so, but they, in a lot of these cases, aren't. In a lot of these cases, they're not even fearful or wanting to cause damage to the other dog. It's just pure excitement. So let's talk about the reactive dog that's just excited. They're just over the top. Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think sometimes, and it happened, I'll say, in 2 of the 3 classes that I taught this morning. I feel like 2 of the dogs, especially, they do doggy daycare. They do our Play Academy program, which is awesome. So they're getting to engage with dogs when they come to DogiZone. Now, when you change the environment, it doesn't necessarily change immediately the dog's mindset that it's not time to play. So there's a little bit of an adrenaline rush of excitement, which causes the dog to jump, to bark, to maybe even whine. That's some of the stuff we experienced in the elementary and the middle school class this morning. And I know what Danny's talking about because she was dropping off this morning right before some of the classes started. And I was very proud of her, what she did. She stopped and she did the sit on the dog exercise until he calmed down and then started to approach the building. So Danny, if you're still on the call, heads up. Awesome job with that. But a lot of times with that excitement, think about when you're walking down the street and you see another dog, and sometimes the owners just let the dogs greet. They let the dogs pull. They get the reward of being able to visit with the other dog versus teaching the dog to, for lack of better terms, sit to say please, or to wait for the permission to go and say hi. Which that causes some additional frustration in the dog, which could make them sound a little bit ferocious.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think one of the most common things that I see is people get a puppy, and when they get their puppy, they go, you know what? I need to socialize my dog. This is so funny, right? Everybody thinks when we say like socialize the dog, it means that they need to meet every single dog that they see. So that can turn into a lot of different scenarios because, ultimately they can have a bad experience or maybe they can have a great experience. But here's the deal. If they have a bad experience, now we've got a dog that may become fearful reactive when they get older versus excited reactive. So socializing the dog doesn't mean they have to interact and greet with every single dog. They just need to have positive experiences in the presence of that other dog, and that's going to make the biggest difference. What I would tell most people is they probably have their dog greeting too many dogs. And so what happens is the dog grows up in age and size. And as the dog grows up in size, now the dog being interested in other dogs is now an inconvenience for us because the dog's pulling us maybe.
Right.
And so we decide all of a sudden, the dog's been able to greet dogs for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. All of a sudden, no more. It's too much. I can't handle it anymore. Now we want to stop it. Now, we've talked about this on a previous call. We talk about the concept of an extinction burst, but this is kind of similar. I mean, ultimately, if the dog has been able to run up and greet every single dog for 6 months of its life, and now all of a sudden we say no, what's the dog going to do? Well, they're going to go through and they're going to try every single thing that they possibly can to get back to that same type of result. And, a lot of that ends up turning into whining, crying, and sometimes we reinforce that by, oh, well, it's our neighbor, and so, okay, we don't want to be rude and ignore them. We walk the dog right over, and then we've rewarded the dog for whining, and that whining then can manifest into barking, which then manifests into excessive barking over and over and over again. So I think that's a pretty common occurrence. I mean, especially in our part of the country. I think in different parts of the country, it might be different. We have a lot of suburban areas around here, and there's a lot of dogs. And so there's a lot of restraint from keeping dogs from greeting each other. But I think that's, for me, one of the common things that I see. Well, hey, look, Jess, it's 7:32 here, and we have kind of gone over on time here. I just want to see if there's any urgent questions that came into the chat bar here, but I think that we are just ready to finish this thing up here. So, hey, look, thank you all for jumping on here. Jess and I are both super appreciative of all of you and grateful that you're willing to spend your time with us. We love it when you guys comment and give us likes and shares. And so if you found this valuable, we would love it if you gave us some hearts or some thumbs up. That would be great. And also make sure to share this. If you have a friend that has a dog and you don't share this with them, I'm wondering why not, because we want to serve as many people as we possibly can. And some of these things can really make a big difference in somebody else's life. So thank you all again for jumping on here. We wish you all a better than great evening. And we look forward to seeing you all next week at 7 o'clock. And guess what? There might be a third person. We'll see you then.